Worship and Arts community. It's Becca Mowry here, and I am joined by Evan Cudzillo. You know, everybody talks about how to say your last name.
It's actually pronounced Cudzillo.
Oh, stop it. I've been saying it wrong for like
right.
10 years, Evan.
No, it is Cudzillo.
Okay.
That's the Polish version, but Cudzillo it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for tuning in. Evan and I, we just wanted to tackle, there are a lot of new worship team members here, and there's some new things that are emerging in our worship community on Sunday mornings that you've probably been seeing, either you've been part of as a team or you've been experiencing through the online community. And so we just wanted to speak a little bit about it. You know, one of our passions is to really look at things from a high level. And so we just wanted to have like a very quick conversation about a few of these things and talk about our worship ministry. So Evan's here, and he's been great. We've dialogued over the last 6 months about a lot of things. Well, actually over the last years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, Evan plays bass and electric, for those of you who didn't know. Oh, and the synth bass, that's been new. That's been really fun.
Yeah, that's been new.
Yeah, and he's one of our leaders in our youth ministry, really helping work with our young people in the area of worship particularly. So it's great to have you here, Evan.
Thanks.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the worship ministry at Walnut Hill and the vision that we have, I think most of us probably know it by now, but can you actually talk us through like what the vision statements are and kind of what we're going after?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important that we all grasp the vision, because without vision, we really do flounder. We're just kind of grasping at things. And at Walnut Hill, as many of us know, and hopefully all of us know this, our vision at Walnut Hill is to ignite a passion for Jesus in Connecticut, New England, and around the world. And so then the mission for our worship and arts ministry, which some of you know, and maybe it might even be new for some of you, but our mission with our worship and arts is that we believe that encounters with Jesus, they transform lives. And we want to ignite a passion for his name and bring renewal to the culture around us. And so our mission is really, what that means is to host the presence of God in our lives, in our work, in our gatherings, facilitating encounters with Jesus that ignite a passion for his name. And we believe that this really happens by setting ourselves apart, you know, as a worship community, being committed to spending time with the Lord. We need to be walking with Jesus through stewarding our gifts, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that even looks like more specifically right now, and serving together. We serve together with passion, with flexibility, with humility, and with unity. So that's all of like the vision and mission kind of in a nutshell.
Yep.
Yeah. So as we talk about some of this stuff, and you've been a member now for years, and you also serve on other worship teams, which has been a great experience for you.
Absolutely.
And it's brought just a richness to our teams as well. You know, when you hear of particularly the worship and arts mission, what are some of the things, the images that come up, or some of the things that stand out to you?
So the first thing that pops out is immediately passion, right? And if you think about the word passion, that requires a desire to do something to the best of your ability, right? Anything you're passionate about, you're not just going to do half-heartedly, which I think is the same for the worship and the arts ministry as well, where if you're passionate about the thing you're doing, that's when the word excellence comes into mind, right? Where we're talking about excellence versus perfection, where we're not necessarily striving for perfection, but there is a sense of excellence that we want to achieve, right? We want to use the gifts that God gave us to the best of our ability, because in doing that, it glorifies him even more. Why would you want to serve the God of the universe only kind of halfway? Right? So I think passion is the word that really sticks to mind.
Yeah.
And with passion comes some work, and it comes some dedication of, spending time at home and practicing, being in the Word, and not necessarily coming just from a musical side of things, but if your heart's not in the right place, you're just performing. I feel like that's not why we're really here. But I think I've always held excellence as a very high standard, and it's always been very important to me to really give my best if I'm going to show up to a Sunday service, or even honestly a Wednesday. You need to be prepared.
Yes. Yeah. I always say we don't learn the songs on Wednesday.
No.
we learn the songs at home,
Yes.
and we come together and play them and practice together as a team.
Right.
But we are putting the work in. And practically, like, just like honestly, in just a few words, like, what does that practically look like for you when you think of excellence on a worship team? Like, break that down just into a few like action points for people.
So excellence on a worship team, I think the first thing that comes to mind is being prepared for anything and being able to adapt and roll with punches. It's one thing if you have your song perfectly rehearsed and everything like that, but then as soon as a curveball comes in, how do you adapt to it? I feel like over time, with having that excellence in mind, and really being intentional about when something comes up that's not
the MP3
prepared
recording
for it, right? How do you deal with that?
Yeah,
right? And also looking back at times in the past where something did happen, and you think, how did we deal with that, and how are we going to deal with that in the future? Because usually it's relatively similar things that would happen. But if the track goes down, like, what do you do? If we go off click, what do you do?
And I'll often say to people, you're more prepared for those times when you have rehearsed a lot, when you know the music.
So I mean, from an excellence standpoint, I make it 100% a goal to not have to use sheet music.
I know, you're amazing. You're amazing. I'm not quite there yet.
But that's the part where, like,
yeah, you're right.
You'll then start to actually be able to worship more if you're in the mindset of, like, I'm confident in what I'm playing, I know why I'm playing it, and I'm not stuck to a sheet music. And that unlocks now your ability to worship, your ability to prophesy, and your ability to have body language that represents, a posture of worship, and not just like you're on stage.
Lead with your body.
Totally.
Yes.
If it looks like you're not enjoying yourself up there, then it's gonna spread to everyone, and it's gonna dampen the mood for sure.
Yeah, when we were talking about this a few months ago, and one of the main reasons we wanted to do this quick video shoot is because when we were talking about this, as a worship leader, preparation really helps us in that area, spending time with the Lord, but in that area of really being able to press in, to wonder, to ask the Lord, what is the spiritual temperature, and to go off book, right? And that takes practice, and that takes practice on Wednesday nights, and that takes practice at home, that takes getting to know the music, but that also is helped by having a music director on stage. And so when we met, like, oh my gosh, it was probably 9 months ago.
Yeah.
It was 9 months ago when we started talking about the music director role. I just thought, I was so excited to hear kind of your vision and some of the stuff behind that, in not having a music director to become perfect, having a music director to become more unified as a team in being able to even go off script in some of those areas. Can you speak a little bit about, and just share with them some of the vision that you gave me about this music director role?
Yeah, so music director, or MD as you'll hear it be called, the whole point of the music director is to execute the vision of the worship leader to the rest of the band. And that is a lot of times where, if you're coming to the end of a song and it's that moment is still there, but if no one can communicate with each other, you kind of just like end the song and you don't really know what to do. But the role of the music director is to kind of keep eyes on the worship leader and see where they're going, and think about maybe we can transition into a chorus of a different song that kind of fits. And that's what we were talking about before with prophesy. That's your moment to prophesy, right? To steward the Spirit and really take that moment and use it to, I guess, the full potential of what the Spirit is doing, right? And
keep us together as a team.
And keep us together, right? I think another role of the MD is, when problems do happen, try to rein things back in, and if it doesn't work, if the click goes off or the cue goes off, and we're fully live, then it's guiding where to go.
Yep. So being prepared for all of those things, I think too, as a worship leader, and I would encourage with worship leaders to always, if you're working with a band director, make sure that you're connecting with one another, but also lead with that vision. You know,
Yeah.
I've heard some people, I don't understand, like, why do we need someone talking in our ears? I'm like, well, they're not talking in our ears to always tell us what to do. They're talking in our ears to keep us unified as a team, flowing out and actually being able to spontaneously move together in excellence.
Right.
And for me as a worship leader, giving up the click track was a big one, because I kind of like control,
Yeah.
right? I like that. But what I have experienced is a greater sense of freedom. And that was one of the things that we talked about back in November when we met, is this greater sense of freedom, this release of, I don't have to cue the band. You're cueing the band when you're on. You're able to take them through that progression. And sometimes we'll talk about what that progression is,
Totally.
oftentimes on a Wednesday.
I feel like communication between the MD and the worship leader is essential.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And that gives the worship leader the ability to lead worship instead of
lead the
fiddle
band
with the band or fiddle with tracks or something like that.
Yes, I love it. I absolutely love it. So it's great. It's been, just like getting used to the click track. I remember when we introduced that here. I mean, I felt like I was a caged lion. I was like, what is this thing? Like, this metronome in my ear. This is terrible. I can't hear people. In-ears. In-ears was a big one. And then we introduced click, and then we introduced tracks. And it's all, as we get used to it, it actually brings a greater sense of freedom.
I also think we're at the very beginning stages of what an MD actually does. And I don't think we've actually even reached the purpose of why we want an MD yet.
And speak to that a little bit. So set a little bit of vision for us as we wrap this up.
Right now, what we've been doing is I've been calling dynamics and stuff, but honestly, the band kind of already knows the dynamics and where to go.
Because we're very well rehearsed.
And there's a good thing about being well rehearsed, but then also sometimes you can get so stuck on what you rehearsed that you can't expand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think at least the reason why I wanted to bring an MD into place in general was specifically for the moments that are not rehearsed.
Yes.
And that's the whole point. That's really the main reason for the MD is really to get into that spontaneous side of things, which we haven't done yet, because I feel like we're still getting used to just having someone in your ears. The whole goal is to, if the worship leader just starts singing a chorus of another song, right? The MD needs to know the chord progression, call it out to the rest of the band, and then kind of feel where we're going, whether we're going to go up or we're going to go down. And that's really the point of it, which I feel like we are moving towards.
We're moving towards, and that's really exciting to me. And so we'll even see in the next, over this next year, that we might be doing less songs on a Sunday, so we might not have 5 songs queued up, but we're going to do the same amount of time. We might have 3 songs queued up at the top, and then we have those areas where we're just saying, hey, we're just going to see where the Spirit wants to lead us, and we have the opportunity to do that because we have the opportunity to do that in excellence because we're being led by the music director.
Yeah, I think also it's a little foreign right now, and so as we go off script, I think sometimes people tend to freeze up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I would say if we go off, that's kind of intentional sometimes.
Yeah.
And to be confident in the space of kind of unknown waters at that point.
Yep. And I love what you actually said when we were talking about this video, how you had talked about, let's start practicing that more.
Totally. I mean, there's one thing about being spontaneous, and there's another thing about not knowing what you're doing and not knowing where you're going, right?
No, that's being unprepared and disorganized.
Well, yes. But also in the spontaneous world, right? It's something that you need to practice. It's not just something that'll come to you necessarily. So even in a Wednesday night rehearsal, if we did times of after a song ends and you thinking in service okay, this could be a moment where something could happen, right? If you practice that on Wednesdays, then you're going to be more comfortable when it happens on the Sunday.
And we should be practicing that. We should be practicing those moments. I don't think the Lord works any less powerfully on Wednesday nights in directing and speaking than he could. It's just like preparing a sermon. You don't have a pastor getting up there not knowing what he's doing, but there might be moments where you end up moving out in the prophetic in different ways in different services, and that's what we can do as a worship team too. So also one thing that an MD is not, we talked about a little bit what an MD does,
An MD is not supposed to overreach the worship leader, right? They're supposed to be working as a team, and the worship leader is supposed to, execute, or the MD is supposed to execute the worship leader's vision, right? So the MD is not a dictator, right? The MD is supposed to steward.
None of us, our worship leaders, should be dictators
right,
either.
Exactly. But it's like
But you're right.
You might be
I
calling things,
that.
but it's really it's meant to be a guide for what the worship leader wants.
Yeah, and I love that you even said that, because that's really the heart of our teams, as all of you who serve on our teams know. Like, our teams, we love one another, we love Jesus, we desire to serve him through loving one another and through serving in unity together. And so this vision of a music director really is helping us achieve that even in greater levels. So, well, I just want to thank you. This was great. Thank you, Evan, and thanks for helping build this with us.
Thanks,
I think sometimes it's always, it's hard work to build things.
It is.
And we have to be patient. And so it takes time, and I really appreciate that. And I so appreciate you guys for hanging in there and watching this and building a great worship ministry together for the glory of God. So thanks so much.